So the other thing I wanted to say is when there's no foundation with a horse's training to be a ridden horse, whether it's going to be a leisure horse, which is probably one of the hardest disciplines because of all the hacking involved, or whether the horse is going to go and compete, but whatever, it still needs a great foundation. Otherwise, the horse really can't do his job, and then gets punished for not doing the job. The rider can get frustrated, angry, and say, "You jolly well know what you should be doing. You've done it before. Just do it for me now." Or the horse shows unwanted behaviour because there's been no foundation in place, and whoa, good boy. Oh, I'm walking on. Well, that standing is an awful lot better than we had to begin with. There was no standing at all. So yes, always it's this foundation, building on the foundation, so you've got something solid, something that the horse can go back to. That's the important thing. When we're teaching canter, well, we make sure there's a foundation of other things in place before we work on the canter, particularly the trot. The trot has to be really very nice. If the trot's not nice, then 9 times out of 10 the canter's not going to be nice either, because the horse can't manage itself in trot. So the trot, you have to have a really good foundational pace in the trot in order to think of the canter. So then when you start working on the canter, the trot inevitably deteriorates, because you're asking for this other thing, and but if you've got a good foundation in place, the horse has got something to go back to, like a default. It's like you're able to rewind it back to a default position, and if the default position is nothing at all, or is lacking, or has got great big holes in it, well then the horse won't have any confidence, self-esteem, trust, or ability to carry out the rider's request. So I think, apart from perhaps lack of understanding of how to do it, or understanding that it hasn't got it, stand. Right, I'm walking on. Apart from that lack of understanding, or perhaps awareness, is people are in too much of a hurry. They want results. Humans are very results driven, and we think we can fit results into a time frame that suits us. Oh, look at that nice car. Thank you. Whoa. And horses really don't want to fit into our time frames, and it puts a lot of pressure on them, and it worries them, and they can't do it. They really can't do it. So to ride in school and train horses, educate them, putting their needs first, requires an investment of time and patience, and increasingly that's in short supply. I mean, we've got a 24-hour society, so you'd think it would give us more opportunities than previously. In actual fact, it makes it a lot harder because people have less and less time. They fill up their days and evenings with more and more things, and when it and so when you're working around horses who are expected to just fill this, to do certain things within a certain time frame, it's never going to happen. And that's why when I look back, to previous era, horses, in a sense, were different. I often think about this and talk about this. I remember, it all started changing in the late 80s, but up until that point, and it's been changing ever since, and hopefully it will start to change back again. But I remember in times gone by, you'd have horses like this Hugo, green horses like him, but they're really they were really just sort of very straightforward and honest, like he is. And you didn't have so many. Of course, there were always difficult horses, but they weren't all difficult with things to overcome. They didn't all have such huge trust issues that we see today, and there weren't so many. Although there's more therapies and treatments available, which is fantastic, that weren't available in those days. In a sense, the horses used to go on, and didn't suffer all the things that they kind of suffer today. I think a lot of that is, we can compete 12 months of the year now. The horses can do an awful lot, and people have got access to schools in a way that they didn't have before. And so, riding out is now more of a choice than a necessity, and sometimes it can be easier to stay in the school. So what tends to happen is all the work's done in the school, and you can't put a foundation in place in a school. Yes, it's very useful, and we are, I'm delighted to say, going to be having one. But we have been doing this for 20 years here, where we're based, without a school, and the horses can be very well educated without a school, way beyond that which you can achieve in a school. But so all these things, like shall we say, a majority of menage-based riding, and less time available, bigger expectations of what the horse should be achieving in a shorter and shorter time frame, lack of old-fashioned nagsmanship and things does have an impact, and makes it much more difficult for the horse to just, and then we're going over this. Oh yes we are. That's it. Makes it much more difficult for the horse to do his job with confidence and to have sufficient self-esteem. Oh, we're coming up here now. I've never actually ridden up here because, well, it's not really for horses, but I just think it's a good idea, especially past these park benches. So we're going to come through here again. Good boy. We'll come through this gap, it's a bit wider. Come on, no. Oh no, you can't do it that way. Right, we'll come round and we'll do it this way. Come on then. Good boy. I'm going to swap the stick into this hand just to encourage the quarters. Good boy. Good boy. Yes, very good. There. Such an honest little fellow. So he reminds me of a lovely old-fashioned lightweight cob, a little working hunter type, you know, that the whole family could enjoy and ride, you know, very straightforward. I mean, you just don't see this sort anymore. I really don't know what's happened to them. And I mean, I'm delighted because he does remind me so much of yesteryear, you know, and I think the more mature rider can probably relate to what I mean. Horses were different then, they just were. And this little fellow is like a little retro horse. He really is. You know, if he was 5 years old, he would be typical of 5-year-olds as I remember them.